Cherry by Daphni. It is 14 songs, 47 minutes long, and Daphne is the alter ego, one of many alter egos. I'm not even going to get into wingdings, but it's an alter ego of Caribou, who we've done a bonus episode of. So actually, Syndicate 23 members should go and check out that bonus episode. You can get the entire archive of Audioface episodes. But his real name's Daniel Snaith, and he is a prolific electronic music producer. Definitely has been around for a long time. He's about 44, 45 years of age, if I can remember off the top of my head. And he is very well, he's very well accomplished. But he releases different styles of music under his different pseudonyms. Caribou is definitely the more mainstream, more well-known one, but still a little bit, underground-ish, so to speak. But it's very lush, electronic, upbeat. It's very front-facing. Daphne, on the other hand, is the pure, house dance music. Like, Sean's doing the pinched hand gesture sort of thing, the perfect sort of deal. And Cherry is one of those records you really really want for, especially as a house music fan, which is an album that plays through like a live house mix.
Exactly.
With the thoughtful, not only the thoughtful transitions, but the thoughtful placement of songs.
It's beautiful. It's just, you could tell someone like Caribou, who's been in the game for so long, has done so many different house mixes and everything, and through Daphne has done so many different sounds and ideas, knows how to mix a record. But this is just like everything I like to indulge in house and EDM into one record. The first, the opening track, Arrow, I love that as an opening track. Like, if you're mixing something right, you're in the club, whatever, and you open that up with that, you know exactly what you're getting. Everybody's just like, boom, instantly just chilling, just bopping your head, having a good time. Cherry, the second song, I really like it now because as a single by itself, I was like, it's interesting. But I mean, here in the context of the record and the way it's popped in between Arrow and Always There, it's like actually a perfect placement for it. So it's not
a great song to get the album going.
Yeah. Exactly. And I just love some of the really interesting beats you get, different sounds and everything. It's a wonderful record. And as Dan was alluding to earlier, like, it plays through very, very well. Like, everything's cohesive. It's 47 minutes long, but the tracks don't feel overtly long. And that's one thing with house you can get a lot is very, very long, repetitive tracks, which it's not your thing, I understand, but we both really like that. But even with my testing for a record, which is put on shuffle and see what happens. Like, I put this record on shuffle and it still played through pretty well. There's a couple awkward moments maybe here and there, but that's to be expected
because you're playing.
That's what you expect, exactly. But it still is cohesive, which for a house record and everything is pretty hard to do. We have tracks like Crimson, Mania, Take Two that are fantastic.
Yeah. So slow down a minute, cool. Squirrely Dan, because there's a lot to go into. A lot of times on an album, and especially in an Audioface album review, I'll talk about song placement and what order songs should be in. And not a damn thing changed. Plastered, set in stone, absolutely perfect.
Don't touch it. Don't touch it.
That's kind of like a response to the shuffle thing Sean's saying, because that's the thing Sean does methodically in his reviews, where he puts an album on shuffle at least once. In this case, you can. It all thematically works together, but I would rather play it, honestly, as one 47-minute song.
Yep.
And I would rather treat it like that because it is a very thoughtful house mix. Now, more on that in a moment, but I'll say my favorite combinations of songs are when we go from Crimson to Mania, because in order for Crimson and Mania to actually work together as songs, they're very different vibes. You need art blocks and you need falling. Art blocks continues kind of where Crimson leaves off. And then between art blocks and falling, you get sort of a mood change. And so together those songs are art blocks and falling, together those songs are just under 3.5 minutes long. So in the grand scheme of your real meaty house tracks that Cherry, which is 5 minutes, Mania, which is 3.5 minutes. That's a 3.5 minute transition. So it's a little bit short, a little bit long, arguably, but it really, really helps everything go through. Second favorite transition. What happens from Mona to Clavicle to Cloudy. because that is just nuts. I like the way that clavicle just bleeds into Cloudy very well, but you wouldn't
So
expect it
freaking
because
good.
clavicle works well with Mona and, the more chaotic parts of the record, like Mania and Take Two, because again, because you have those thoughtful transitions. You're thinking, okay, I have this song coming up and it's going to create this mood on the dance floor. So I'm going to tease it by including elements of this, but I can't just throw it on the dance floor because that's a totally different reaction. I want to ease them into it. So I'm going to play this different thing to transition. That's thoughtful. That really separates, like the press play DJs that you see at a
Yeah,
lot of electronic music
compared to
festivals
actually mixing.
yes, 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 yes.
Actually having an idea of what it sounds like. Like example, my favorite track on here by far is Take Two. Take Two is like a modern take on French touch, which is my favorite subgenre of house. Like that's literally what I grew up listening to is the whole Creatamore label um and that's like actually a conversation I'd love to have on this podcast at some point is just all of like our house upbringings and stuff. But like when I listen to Take Two, I just sat there and like for a
Just
second,
grinning.
just like frozen of like I feel like I'm a kid again, and I'm just like so happy with how it sounds. Somebody mixed up French touch, but put a modern twist on it. And again, like you said, like you go from Take Two to Mona to clavicle, like those transitions and everything. Because example, Take Two to Cloudy, like they're all very, very different vibes. One is just like hectic and crazy. The other one's more chill house. But with the way that he transitions through each track and everything transition through it. It's beautiful and it plays out so nice.
In the words of Ghost producer Kyle, Cloudy is such a dirty little track. But I really love it. Like, it's so good. It's very simple with just that piano and that bass loop in the background. But when I say that's going to be this year's shining collarbone for me, where it's my brain's hold music when I have no actual thoughts in it, when I go to my Spotify Unwrapped and it's like, oh, you listen to this song 3,400 times, it's probably going to end up being Cloudy by Daphni, just because it's very simple, very good beat, but it's a nice, like, dirty, like, deep, not deep house, but like deep bass, like classic house music. Now, that's the thing, is that this album is kind of unapologetically what it is. It's a house record that is calling back to the oldest, like, kind of hits of house from the 80s, 90s, aughts, and trying to put, like, modern touches here and there kind of in there. Now, that's kind of, it's a great record, but it's an album that is purposely constraining itself, and it does such a good job at what it is. I almost wish it was pushing itself forward, because the reality is electronic music doesn't sound like this at all. You're not going to get anything like this at an electronic music festival, and like that's a shame, because a lot of stuff you get at EDM festivals is just total dog shit. But there's a lot of stuff, really, really a lot of stuff that's great that we've been talking about this year, especially Swedish House Mafia, Fred Again, like a number of different artists who are really good out there and then techno's having its own different scene right now that's definitely not for everyone, but I think it's interesting, and other artists are other EDM artists are incorporating newer techno into their music as well. But I think there could have been opportunities in here as well, and you could make an argument for Take Two doing that a bit. But my biggest complaint I'd say about this album that is otherwise just really good, so it's a nitpick, honestly, is that it feels a little bit predated, like an aged cheese.
I don't think it's predated. I think it's one of the things where it's on the border of being Uncle Rappy. It's right at that limit where it's doing just enough different to not sound like a complete like 2001 record, right? But it's paying homage to all the sounds of someone who's been in the game for 20, 30 years, right? So that's the thing I like about it. For example, like Take Two. Like, it's a modern interpretation of French touch. Now, if you made it a little bit more fuzzier and had like more like record popping sounds in it, then I'd be like, oh, well, then this is just like a Nights on Ice track or something. Like, okay, well, it's nothing that I haven't heard before, but it's just small slight adjustments to be unapologetically what it is.
And I do like the Take Two is like it feels like a French touch track, but just the way the drums are thumping in it, just the kind of BPM speed of it, it feels a little bit more modern in that way. And I think Always 100%. There works a little bit like that as well. So I think I tip the hat a little bit to Daphni, Daniel, whatever in this, but I just
I
don't know.
freaking
I mean, outside of us and like house music lovers, I just don't feel like it's going to have that broad of an appeal. But I think that's okay because again, this is a side project of
no.
Caribou, of Daphni, of like Daniel. He's allowed to kind of do these things and have them in their kind of like bubble, so to speak. If this were released as Caribou, I would say, wow, this is kind of a miss as a Caribou project. This would have been done as like
Yeah,
a
yeah.
side thing. But this is a side thing, and I'll say that
It's a
okay,
hit for a side thing.
yeah, it's an absolute hit for a side thing. The cons are that, other than a couple songs, I may not come back to this, but I think it's a great album for me to just like listen to and get some work done for 47, 50 minutes.
I'm definitely coming back to this record a lot. So I love it. Thank you for making me fall in love with house again.
Definitely. Not my fault, but anyways, arbitrary scale. Arbitrary scale is every week on Audioface because our review is our review. And if you don't get what we already said in that review, so we're going to give you a ranking scale to use. That's going to be completely useless. This is going to be 2000s rapper political write-ins. This is going to be my This is going to
I know
be
mine.
This is going to be my pause from De La Soul.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
It's
This is
yours.
my Wyclef Jean.
Now that's
Even though
very
I
good.
think he's Asian, so I don't think I could technically write him in, but I don't give a fuck. No.
We could change the rules for that. We're about to for Schwarzenegger, anyways.
I mean, Schwarzenegger's a governor, so Wyclef Jean can run for some type of public office.